That is going to do it for Vanilla Rome. And once again, thank you so much for signing up for the course. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you got a ton of value out of it. In concluding, I wanted to wrap up by just sharing a few quick thoughts here. So, number one, kind of summarizing what we went through in the course. Number one, we started with Rome's building blocks. These were really the fundamental concepts that you want to make sure that you have strong mastery of before you move into any of the other use cases. These are things like block references, page references, indentation, the daily notes page. Again, these really are the building blocks and the core concepts that drive your experience with Rome. We then talked about Rome for productivity. As I mentioned, not a use case that I necessarily anticipated when I started using Rome, but has become really one of my go-to uses for Rome on a day-to-day basis. And in fact, I think a great way to get started. It's a simple, sort of clean use case that can keep you focused and really help solidify some of those core concepts that we talked about in the building blocks section. Finally, we moved into maybe what some would think of as the meat and potatoes, the note-taking and content generation sections. These are the ideas that really draw a lot of people into Rome, and I think where Rome really, really shines and excels over any other system that I personally have ever used or seen. And so we talked about the importance of getting those notes in there, putting them into your own words, and then the ability to almost use those like knowledge Legos in Rome and really mix and match and spot connections between your ideas and create a writing process that is very frictionless and fluid and efficient if you get it set up right. So again, I really hope that you got some value out of seeing some of these use cases and some of the practical applications of the tool. Moving on from there, just a few more thoughts I wanted to share as you're getting started with Rome. I really encourage you to start with a narrow focus. Rome is, like I said, a blank canvas. That Rome paradox idea that I talked about is real. I've talked to a lot of people who struggle with this sort of blank canvas approach of Rome. And what I would really encourage you to do to take away from this is just start small with focused use cases. I think of Rome a lot like learning how to play an instrument. And if you've ever learned how to play an instrument, you'll know that you really are going to start simple with core concepts like basic scales, basic chords, basic rhythm. You're certainly not going to jump in and start trying to improvise and make up your own music right away. You're going to learn from people who have already written and people who are going to teach you some of these core concepts. And only once you learn how to master some of those things will you jump into doing the more advanced things. So use these lessons as a jumping off point. Use these use cases as I showed you, just as is, if you really liked them as they were, but feel free to mix and match and make them your own. And then I like to encourage people also to practice what I call just-in-time graph development. And what I mean by this is don't go out and try to solve every conceivable problem that you could possibly run into. Don't waste a lot of time and energy going out there and looking at different plugins and extensions. Really start with a tight focus and then use the problems or blockers that you run into to dictate where you're going to go spend time trying to improve and optimize your graph. In closing, I wanted to share a few next steps as I thought about what I would encourage people to take away from this course, especially for those of you who are just getting started. One of the things that I would strongly recommend is to take a project-focused approach. And by that, I simply mean pick a specific project at work or a hobby or passion that you're into, or any specific topic that you're trying to learn a lot more about, and use that as a tool to really focus your efforts. Early in my Rome days, I didn't really take this approach, and I found that my efforts were very diffuse. They were sort of spread across too many different aspects of my graph. And I think by picking a specific area to focus on, you'll really fast track your ability to master the tool. Use the productivity methods we talked about to keep you focused on this project. Begin aggregating source material with the various methods we talked about. Create a drafting page for the topic to do your own writing, and then create a content pipeline to publish your results. And if you follow these simple 4 or 5 steps there with a specific project, I really am confident that you're going to hit the ground running with Rome. And last but not least, keep it simple and have fun. This is a great tool. I've had a ton of fun using it, and it's really enhanced my productivity and life, frankly, in many different ways. And I hope sincerely that it does the same for you. Once again, thank you so much for taking this course, and please feel free to reach out anytime. You can find me on Twitter at Jason Griffing. If you have any questions at all, I would love to hear from you. Thanks so much.